I do not think that LeBron James called up Rob Pelinka or Jeannie Buss and said, I'm not coming back if you bring Darvin Ham back. I don't know, but that is not my impression of what has happened there. Did LeBron James and Anthony Davis make it pretty clear over the past few months that they had lost some faith in Darvin Ham? Absolutely. You don't need to go back to the beginning of the season. It was great reporting by Ramona, but you don't even need to go back that far. You can look at just the last couple months. You can look at this playoff series. You had Anthony Davis calling out the coaching staff in the middle of the series. You had LeBron hopping up and down on the sidelines because he was mad that Darvin didn't challenge a call. That is not the way a player who has enormous respect for their head coach talks to their head coach in front of everybody, right? So I think we saw which way this was going. However, even if a coach has, quote, lost the locker room, and I would argue he didn't lose the whole locker room. I think he lost the biggest names. We usually say if that's happened, you got to get rid of the coach, right? I mean, that is the way the NBA works. Even then, though, you have to have an idea in mind of who you're going to get to replace him. And is that person in your head better than what you have? And I just am not sure with some of the names that I've been hearing from plugged-in reporters.
I would agree.
If there's a guy who they're considering who is so much better, because
there's not that name like,
was never going to happen, right? Yeah. He has expressed over and over this season, I want to stay with the Clippers. The Clippers have expressed that they want to keep him. There's already been reporting about an extension in the works. Yep. There you go. Jason Kidd, The Athletic reported this morning, the Mavericks have now extended Jason Kidd and signed him to a big new deal. You know who that's about? That is about LeBron James and the Lakers, right? Jason was on that staff and obviously a big favorite, a player's coach. They wanted to make sure, we are keeping him here in Dallas. So you're not getting those guys. And then you look at the other names that have been reported, right? We hear about these guys who I have to think about the connection LeBron or AD has with them. And I can't say automatically, oh, yeah, man, they're going to vibe the way that they didn't with Darvin. That doesn't necessarily jump out at me. Doesn't mean that one of these other guys can't do it. But there's not an obvious guy that makes me think, yeah, man, get rid of Darvin Ham because we got so-and-so on deck. I would not go with a first-time coach in this situation. I just think that the Lakers' runway is too short to bring in anyone who has the learning curve of being a head coach for the first time. So then you're looking at guys who've done it before. I don't know, Paul, what your names are you're going to throw out. To me, I would think Scotty Brooks or Mark Jackson might be the guys who've dealt with high-level talent before, who could step in. But again, you have to have faith they're going to be better than what you have for a guy who had already been in the system for a couple of years. Yeah,
I agree. Well, anytime you step into coaching LeBron, it's the least stable job there is in the game of basketball. It's the least stable job. I mean, this is going to be his fourth coach in, 6 years now coming up? I mean, I believe it's like the 9th coach in 21 years.
He's played a long time.
Yeah, but look how many head coaching turnovers he's had. Like, probably more than anybody in NBA history. And it goes to what I'm saying, it's the least stable job. I don't see nobody running to take this job, at least somebody who's respected in the coaching game. So that's why we're hearing names like J.J. Redick, a guy who they draw plays on their podcast together. You know, I think that was just a test to see of, what J.J. thought of the plays that LeBron had. But I really can't think of anybody who would even want this because you're looking at a short stretch. And I say like 3 years maximum with LeBron. Who's going to be the puppet this time? That's pretty much what it is, a puppet job. Because like when LeBron is not happy with you, you're out of there. If you're not doing what he says, you're out of there. Yeah. If you're not floating to the beat of his drums, you're gone. So LeBron had 100%. He was 100% responsible for this firing. I'm sure maybe he didn't go up there to Rob Pelinka, but he told Rich Paul that, hey, this ain't working. At some point during the season, some point after the season, the message got back, and that's why it took a couple days, he was gone right after the season. They knew this was like, once the Lakers were down in the series, it was like, this is it. If they don't give us the series, so he was 100% involved in this, and I just can't even put. I mean, the best person probably for this job is probably Maverick Carter. I mean, you might as well have him coach the team.
You know what? I might vote for that. He might do pretty well.
Right.
I think LeBron would listen to him, actually.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody he respects and listens to.
All right. I don't want to dump it all on LeBron's doorstep because, to your point, I think AD was in lockstep with LeBron. And if you lose both of them, you lose your job. And for whatever reason, he lost both of them. I'm going to go back to Ramona, the first point that we talked about. Clearly, it's not just Darvin trying to restrict LeBron's minutes. It goes up to Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka. The whole organization, I'm sure, looked at him as you go into age 39, year 21 in this league, and you say, let's try to pull it back just a bit so we can have you full force because we feel like you hit the wall and ran out of gas against Denver in the conference finals. Let's not rinse and repeat that again. So clearly, let's hold you down to maybe 30-ish minutes to start the year. No, I got to score points because he's got big goals to reach and their career longevity goals. And so there's no way he's going to pull back on his minutes. No. So I'm not going to dump that on Darvin's doorstep either. And yet LeBron winds up playing, if you just average it per game, the 5th most minutes in the league. That's just like basketball suicide to me. It's not smart. They don't have anybody who can save LeBron from himself. Right. And I get it. He wants to go over 40,000 because it's impressive, man. Every time I say that, it comes out of my mouth. I think 40,000 points? Yeah. How do you do that? How do you last that long and play at this high level? Right. And I'm going to say it again. LeBron himself looked 39 going on 29 for most of this year. I give you that. But in the end, I'm with you. It just comes down to what LeBron thinks. And yet, I like Darvin. I like him personally, so maybe I'm leaning a little bit toward he didn't deserve this more than I should. But I don't think he deserved it because if you look at his playoff performance as the head coach, 4 times last year, they were right there in the 4th quarter against the team that is about to go win it in the conference finals. There's nothing wrong with that I can see. And it wasn't Darvin's fault that LeBron was just not very good in those 4 fourth quarters. He shot 7 of 23 and 1 of 10 from 3. And in the closeout game here in L.A., LeBron had the ball in his hands. He had 2 last shots to tie it. And for whatever reason, he just didn't pull it off. That's not Darvin's fault because I don't know how you could ask for much better against a team that most people thought was much better than you are. And then 5 times this year against Denver in the first round where you had LeBron fresh. That was all Keyshawn talked about for a month. I just want LeBron fresh for the first round, right? And he got him. And 5 times, they're right there. 1 time they closed the deal. And 4 other times they didn't close the deal. Well, it wasn't Darvin's fault that LeBron missed a wide-open 3-point shot that could have changed the whole series, just flipped it on its head in Game 2 at Denver. And it definitely wasn't Darvin's fault that LeBron in the 4th quarter of Game 1, I don't know what was going on. He just checked out. I don't know what happened, but he just did. Well, that's not Darvin's fault. Can I fault Darvin for looking like a bystander half the time, standing up near the bench? Like, I don't know, because LeBron has the highest IQ in basketball. How do you tell him no? And then it looks so bad for Darvin in the 4th quarter of, what was it, Game 4, when LeBron just threw a fit. And obviously LeBron was 1,000% right. You should have challenged that. Yep. And then Darvin seemed to lose his equilibrium, and then he's challenging the Austin Reeves call and the AD call, and it cost him the timeout at the end. Okay. I got it. But to your point, Paul, it always comes down to LeBron, and he is difficult to coach, but he's a blessing to have, blessing, curse to have to coach. And I'm sure people would line up to try to pull this off. But to your point, do they have somebody in their back pocket we don't know about? Is there a name that we're not seeing? Right. I don't see one. There's not been one suggestion where I say, voila, Eureka, that's the guy, because he can do. Ty Lue would be the guy, but
guy's not available right now.
Right. I mean, my hope is that the Lakers organization, when they look over and make this decision, they not only look at who is the best guy for this job now, but they maybe review their approach. The Lakers have had 6 coaches in 13 years. You talk about, how many coaches LeBron has had over a certain amount of time. The Lakers have had 6 coaches in 13 years. That is not a recipe for success.
I don't view Jeannie as like unstable.
No, she's not. But she does leave, and we want this from owners, by the way, is she leaves a lot of it in the hands of her front offices, and that's what we want team owners to do. And in a place like Los Angeles, and we saw this for years in New York as well, there is so much external pressure. There's so much media attention. There's so much vociferous fan attention. It is a crazy environment to have to work in. And in New York, for years, we saw all kinds of turnover in places where they could have used stability because of that crazy environment, and they didn't have the backbone from the organization to say, nope, we're going to stay the course. And that is what Leon Rose brought. And I do think that the Lakers organizationally need to have a little bit more of that attitude. I was covering the Miami Heat a lot when LeBron was down there, and there was a point where there was a bit of a, you know, sort of, oh, who has control of this team?
There was.
Derek Spoelstra and LeBron James. Pat Riley put his foot down in a way that maybe only Pat Riley can, but he said, this is my guy. You got to work it out because he is going to be the coach here. And I don't know if someone had said that to the star players on this team, and it is both of them, about Darvin Ham, whether that would have flown or not. Eric turned out to be one of the great coaches in the league and had been with the organization since he was a video assistant, so it's a little bit of a different situation. But there is a point where the organization has to back one of these coaches, and hopefully it's the next guy, to say, you know what, if we as an organization decide LeBron needs to play less minutes, that's not going to be the coach's fault.
No.
That is a organization-wide fault, and we are going to have stability here in LA. And I just hope that the Lakers, which are such a great storied franchise, can take more of that attitude with the next guy, because that is what creates winning basketball.
Yeah, it does.
Michael Malone talked about that last year after winning the finals as well. He said there was times where if I was in any organization other than this one, they would have fired me. But they stuck with me, he said, after winning, and that's how we're here right now. And I do think that matters.
But that pressure comes with LeBron everywhere he goes. You know, it's win now. It's win or bust. No matter what seed they are, it's win or bust with them. And so that's the pressure he brings, and you got to understand that when you're hired or when you come in. That's why, like, the J.J. Redick thing doesn't make sense. No experience. If you're talking about this window is 3 years for LeBron.
Maybe 2.
And maybe we don't know what that window is. He could retire right now, you know, so, you know, then it'll make sense.
So, Paul, what if you're Rob Pelinka and LeBron comes to you this afternoon and he says, you know what, I've been checking out JJ on this podcast, and he's really smart, and we really see the game the same way. I want to go with him. Would you go? No experience whatsoever.
No experience whatsoever, but Steve Kerr didn't have experience either.
No.
You know, I think your head coach is only as good as your assistants. You know, so it depends on who your assistant coaches are going to be also. With JJ is a guy that, as long as he respects him, because that's what I think you need for LeBron. If he's going to respect JJ Redick in that position, then fine. He's not going to roll over him and talk to him like he did Darvin Ham and be all demonstrative in the middle of the court there, embarrassing him. If that's what you need to have a head coach that you respect in the locker room, leading the charge, then let's do it. Let's do it. But at that point, we got to make sure we get the right assistants for him.
Look, the difference with Steve Kerr, though, is he was coming into a team with 2 young guys in Klay Thompson and Steph Curry at the time. Not a guy like LeBron, where it's a ticking clock. Even AD is at a point in his career where he wants to and needs to win now.
And by the way, those 2 young guys had been nurtured and taught at the highest level by Mark Jackson.
So that's why, to me, he is a name that people should be talking about more for this job. Scotty Brooks is a guy who had those young Thunder teams where he really made such an impact and was able to really elevate those guys quicker and ahead of schedule than they should have been. And so I think he's someone they should look at. And look, if J.J. Redick is LeBron's guy and that's who he wants, and he comes to them and he says, this is who I want, this is the guy, which, by the way, LeBron doesn't tend to do things that directly, but let's say that happens. I think that the answer back from the franchise is, okay, but then this is the guy for the rest of your time here.
Okay, that's fair.
Are you convinced that you are signing on for 3? If we're going to sign you for 3 years for $162 million, whatever it was, $1 million, are you going to be okay with him for 3 years? Because we'll take your. Look, it's not. I mean, Paul, you had a voice in who was coaching teams when you were at the height of your career, and there were coaches that came in and out of Boston. But it's okay for a star player and 2 star players to have a voice in who's coaching the team. But you have to, as an organization, sit there and say, great, we're going to have to stick with this one, though, especially if you have the track record of 6 coaches in 13 years.
All right. So LeBron never has quite enough help, so let's get him some more help. You have brought up the name Donovan Mitchell. So I watched Donovan on Friday night at Orlando, yesterday at Cleveland, Game 6, Game 7.
Perfect fit for the Lakers.
Well,
man,
it's not happening, people.
The point is how.
You think the Cleveland Cavaliers, of all franchises, where the ownership has an issue with LeBron for more than a decade, even when he came back to that team, things never defrosted, right? You think that they are going to trade the guy who they thought was they're going to be their franchise player for the next 5 to 10 years
to
LeBron so he can go win a title? Not happening.
But then down the road, you're going to have to deal with maybe one of his clients. Maybe you got to look. Hey, you can't hold grudges forever as owners, because as much as you might not like LeBron, he has a hold on this league on and off the court.
I'm not saying it's the smartest thing to do. I'm just saying that predictability tells me that from the way they've interacted.
They might want to work with him. They might want to deal with Lakers and LeBron again. Because now you get this big free agent that's under Clutch Sports. Oh, you know what? We're not going to Cleveland. We're not going to go there.
Free agents don't tend to go to Cleveland that often anyway. LeBron was an anomaly when he came back. And by the way, we saw what Portland did to Damian Lillard, where they said, you are not going to go somewhere we don't want you to go. You're not demanding your own trade. And they found another way to get rid of
I believe Donovan has like an option this year. He can opt out, right?
I don't think so. I think
he has 1 year guarantee.
I think he's locked
out. But he's not signing the extension, though. So, you don't want to lose a player for nothing. Yeah. So you might be forced to trade him this
summer. Other places you could trade him. You know who has a lot of assets? The San Antonio Spurs. Would you like to see him with Victor Wembanyama? I would. Okay. I'd love to see that. You know who has assets? The Thunder. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of a position match there with Shea, but there's teams out there who could offer, as much as the Lakers are restocking their cupboards starting on draft night, they will have 3 first-rounders. They can make salary room with some of the guys who I assume will be let go. They don't have ultimate flexibility, and there are teams out there with a ton of flexibility and a ton of picks.
I just kept hearing Donovan was so unhappy in Cleveland, and I got to tell you, yesterday in the fourth quarter, he did not look unhappy to me.
No, he's still going to play the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.